Another very important thing that I realized when I was governor was the importance of the future of the relationship between our nation and Japan. The burgeoning growth of Japan as a major player on the world stage, not only in economics, which was fairly predictable at that time, but also increasingly in the field of political affairs. Without becoming a major military power, Japan has become the preeminent source of humanitarian aid throughout the world. Our foreign aid budget this year, just as a matter of interest, is a little less than $9 billion. Japan's is $11 billion. Most of our foreign aid, unfortunately, all except about $2 billion, goes for the purchase of weapons. Almost all of Japan's foreign aid goes for education, health care, housing, and the improvement of the quality of life of the people in the struggling nations on earth. The compatibility that we formed with Japan in the last 40, 45 years has obviously been of great benefit to the Japanese in the emergence of one of the most powerful and dedicated and persistent and effective democracies on earth. A leader in not only what they've accomplished, but the example that they have set. And the benefits that we derived in my state, which I love, have been almost beyond reckoning. Not just in the jobs created, not just in the Georgia products that are purchased in Japan, but the formation of intimate, personal friendships that really in some ways transcend the economic benefits. The Yoshida family came here shortly after we were able to establish a consul generalship of Japan in Atlanta, and my good friend Ambassador Chiba was the first consul general. But the Yoshida family became almost like one with the Carter family. When they celebrated their 50th anniversary in Japan a few years ago, it happened to be the 10th anniversary of their Georgia plant in Macon. I was there with my wife. And we enjoyed the ambiance of a Japanese society. We visited the small villages. We went out to the rice farms. I even made a speech, the first of any American statesman in Hiroshima. And look back on the history of how countries at war with a vision of building a permanent example for the rest of the world to maintain peace. Last year when Mrs. Yoshida died, I was there at the funeral to give one of the funeral orations as a friend. I think all of us in Georgia who have participated to some degree in the Japan-America Society of our state don't need any convincing from me about the mutual benefits that we've derived from this burgeoning relationship. I planted a small seed. When I left office, we had, I think, 26 Japanese firms in our state. George Busby, my successor, made that seed grow into a flourishing plant with flowers. And of course, Joe Frank Harris built upon that into a mighty plant that bears rich dividends and rich fruit for us all. So I'm indebted tonight to Ambassador Chiba, to Mike Mansfield, to George Busby, to Joe Frank Harris, and to all of you who recognized, along with me, I playing a small role, about the tremendous benefits that we derived from our friendship, our cultural exchange, our business relationships with our friends from one of the mighty and benevolent democratic nations on earth, Japan. Thank you.
It is indeed an honor to ask Ambassador Chiba to step forward as Ambassador Mansfield presents him with the 1990 Mike Mansfield Award.
Mr. Chairman, President Carter, Ambassador Mansfield, Governor Harris, my good old friend, Mayor Jackson, ladies and gentlemen, among you, of course, there are many of my fellow Japanese Georgians. I am very happy to be here because the high point of my career up to now has been here. And I'm very happy to see my good friend, Consul General Kimura, and his wife leaving this post, as I did many years ago with my wife over there, with friendship following him and enveloping him. He surpassed me in lots of things, not only just the tenure of his office, but he did one thing which I originally did. He chose good friends like I did. And that's the basis of his success. And here I see so many old friends. I remember being introduced into the governor's office and meeting my neighbor here and going to City Hall, talking to Mr. Maynard Jackson. I marveled at the changes in the South. In those days, I'd only read Tobacco Road as a sort of introduction. And I went down to Albany, or however that's pronounced in this state. And of course, the Okefenokee Swamp with my wife, the Green Frog Restaurant. All these place names evoke my old friends. And among them, of course, Governor Busby, who was so helpful after the great achievements of Governor Carter. He took over and he completed the internationalization of Georgia, which Governor Carter had started. And I spot among my old friends right out there, Peter White, who is, as then, heading up the Southern Council for International Studies, and he was a major force in the early days, early formative stages of this state's internationalization. Well, of course, there are lots of transplanted Yankees here. I think he's one of them, but a better example, right? Of course, Mr. President, you're a transplanted Greek. Well, there are many very serious issues in the world today, and we have some between the two countries, but I will not touch upon those great problems, as the statesmen here have already mentioned them. I will talk to you about food. My wife and I, this morning, had a real Southern breakfast. Last night, as a guest of our old friend Peter White, we had catfish. Incidentally, at Oxford University, there is a young Japanese prince, the second son of our emperor, who is studying biology with a particular specialization in catfish. Now, people ask, why on earth would he select Britain, not to speak of Oxford, as a venue for studying catfish? Why doesn't he go to Mississippi, for instance? The answer is a compromise. There's a royal family in Britain. I don't think there's any in Mississippi. And there's only one professor in the whole of Great Britain who understands catfish, and that's the one in Oxford where he is studying. So you see, in our professional lives, all of us have to make compromises. Even the royals have to do that. Well then, even before leaving London, we had a taste of not exactly Southern food, but something like it, because my wife and I went to a restaurant, Chinese restaurant in our neighborhood in London, and on the menu, what did we see? We saw pork belly, Chinese style. So we both hastened to order that to prepare ourselves for our homecoming to the South. It turned out it was some sort of bacon a la chinoise. But you can see how food ennobles man, enriches his mind, his spirit, his soul, and how it prepared us to come to the South and find it so dynamic, so vibrant, so beautiful, so clean too. My wife and I were really happy to see not only good old Atlanta and good old Georgia, but the South as a whole, at least the past we saw it, in very good state, in very good shape. And that is thanks to the people, both native and transplanted Northerners or Westerners, or whatever you like, and the leaders who are here and who are honoring us by their work much, much more than either I did or Kimura-san will do from now on improving relations between Japan and the United States. We are here in Atlanta, the fair city of the South. We are here in Georgia, the vibrant state of the South. We are in the Southeast, the most vibrant area in the great United States, which is the #1 country in the world, which we all look up to. We have looked up to and will look up to. We hope that as we near the 21st century, this strength you have here in Atlanta will come and shine again all over the world and usher us into the next millennium. Thank you very much for this honor.
Now it is my special honor to present Ambassador Mike Mansfield, for whom these awards were named. Ambassador Mansfield.